This is the Shopify store by Kendall Jenner with her Tequila brand 818. And in this tutorial, we're going to rebuild this beautiful product section right from within Instant. So this is what I've just built, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can build something similar in a matter of minutes and all without code. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is drag in our base row. Let's give this row a background color, this color from the brand styles. And then within this row, we drag in another row, which will hold the text element and the button. And then underneath, we drag in 4 different columns, which will be the 4 different products. It's not in the same row, so let's quickly do that right now, and there we have it. So this base row now contains this row on the top and these 4 columns underneath. For the base row, let's add some inside spacing, so there's some space between the outer edges of the canvas and then where the content starts. So let's add 40 pixels worth of inside spacing to the top and bottom and 40 to the left and right. Then within this upper row, we drag in a header element. There it is, and let's fill in the correct text, our Tequila, and then also the right font, in this case the Oswald font, and give this a size of 60 pixels. Then there's a minimum height on this row of 200 pixels. Let's delete this so it snaps to the height of the text. And then next to this text element, we drag in a button. As you can see, I can only drag it either on top of the text element or underneath. That's because the direction of this row is set to vertical. So items are placed on a vertical axis. Let's change it to horizontal. Make sure this text element is on the left, and then set the distribution to equal space between, so it snaps to the outer edges of the row, and then a line from the center. Then this button, let's zoom in a little bit. This should say see all. And then next to this text element, we want a arrow icon. So under images, we can find icon, drag it into the row. Then let's find the arrow icon, scroll down a little bit, and here it is. Make this icon black. We should also make the text black. And then this, let's change it to fit, so it fits the content. And then we add some more inside spacing to the left and right, so the button becomes wider. Right now it's set to 16. Let's change this to 40. Then delete the fill color and add a black border. The radius, which is causing the round corners, is set to 8. Let's change this to 4. This looks about right. And then let's also add a hover effect. So whenever someone hovers over this button, I want the button to fill with the black color, and then the text becomes white. So to do this, we select the button, head over to interaction, add the mouse hover trigger, and then we change the fill state to black. What we should also do is add an interaction to the text element and the icon, so they become visible. So we select the text element, add another mouse hover trigger, and change the color of the text to white. Do the same thing for the icon, add a mouse hover effect, and change the color to white. Now let's preview to see if we've done this correctly. And as you can see, it's looking really, really nice. The next thing we're going to do is build out the product cards. So the product card consists of the main row. Then within this row, we have an image, we have a text element, and a button as well. So let's drag in a image. There it is. Underneath this image, we drag in another row, and then within this row, we drag in a button and then a title element as well. So for this row, let's change the fill color to the correct color, which is this brand color right here. Then let's add some inside spacing, so there's some space between the outer edges of this row and where the content starts. So 12 to the top and bottom, 12 to the left and right. Then I'm going to connect this entire row to one of my Shopify products. So to do this, I'm going to go to Shopify Content, Shopify, and then select the correct product, which in this case is the 818 Blanco Tequila. Then nothing really changed except that the outline is now green, but then I select the image, change the content from static to dynamic, and now it showcases the product image. Next up, we're going to do the same thing to this text element. So let's select content, change this to dynamic, and select the product title. Let's change the font as well to the Oswald font. Change the size to 36. And then let's delete the minimum height on this row. Make sure everything is aligned from the middle or the center. And then I want this button to take up all the space that is available. So I'm going to change the width of this button from fit to fill. Then I'm going to change the color of this button to the correct brand color, which is this one. Change the text to shop. Change the color of the text to this color. And then there's quite some space between these two elements. That's because there's a gap. Let's change the gap from 32 to 12. This already looks way better. Then I also want to create a nice round edge on this first row. So to do this, we select the main row. Then we add a radius of 4. And let's also apply the same to the button at a radius of 4 instead of 8. So now let's quickly preview what we have done. And I want to add two things right now. The first thing is add a hover effect to the image. So whenever I hover over this first product card, the image becomes bigger. And I also want to add an animation to this button. And then I also see that I need to apply a bigger radius because these corners are not really round. So let's select the main row, go to radius and change this from 4 to 12. This already looks way better. Then we select the image and go to interactions. We add a mouse hover interaction, and then we change the scale from 100 to 105%. This looks about right. Then for the button, we also add a mouse hover. I want to add a border. I'm going to delete the fill color in the active state, a green border, and I want the text to also become green. So let's add a mouse hover on the text element and change the color to this green color. And now let's see what we have done. So the image becomes larger and then the button becomes larger as well when I hover over it. But I want this to happen at the same time and not only when I hover on top of an individual element. I want these animations to take place when I hover over the card, which is currently not the case. So to do this, we also add a mouse hover trigger to the entire row. So we select the entire row and then under interactions, we also add a mouse hover. And now all the other elements will trigger from this main row. So let's preview again, and as you can see, it now happens at the same time. Then it happens quite fast, so I want to slow this down a little bit. So let's head over to the image, interaction, and change the animation speed from 125 milliseconds to 600. Do the same thing to the button. Change the speed to 600. Let's preview again, and now it's way smoother. What we need to do next is duplicate this first row and connect it to the right product. And this is really simple. So simply duplicate it, delete the other row, duplicate it again, delete the other row, and the final time. There's quite some space in between these rows. Let's quickly change that as well by changing the gap from 32 to 12. This looks way better. And now the magic really starts to happen with our Shopify integration. So this row, the source is set to the 818 Blanco. But right here, I want to showcase the Reposado product. So the only thing I have to do is connect this product and all the dynamic content changes. Let's also do this for this product. Connect it to the Añejo. There it is. And then for the last one, connect it to the 8 Reserve. Here it is. Since this image is quite a bit bigger, we need to make a few changes to this row. So the distribution of this row is set to distribute from the top, but I want to distribute it with equal space between, and do the same thing to the other rows so everything snaps to the bottom of the row. And there we have it. Let's preview again and see what this looks like. And this is starting to look really, really good. And that's it for this tutorial. So I hope you have a good understanding on how to accomplish something like this yourself, and good luck.